So if you think about yoga or, meditation,
Yeah.
what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Uh, uh, Probably breathing, stretching, maybe finding some inner peace.
Right, exactly. Like letting go of your ego, releasing control. But what if all of that, the breathing, the focus, the stillness, what if that could actually be weaponized?
Weaponize, like how do you weaponize inner peace?
Well, that is exactly the wild, totally controversial framework we are unpacking today. We're looking at a perspective where yoga isn't about letting go at all. It's actually about absolute targeted psychological dominance.
Yeah, and it's a premise that, I mean, it completely shatters the modern sanitized version of wellness that we're all so used to.
Oh, totally.
We are stripping away the yoga mats and the stress relief to examine a really esoteric claim. The idea that a trained mind is not just a passive observer of reality, but an active, forceful projector.
Like a projector that can actually override the autonomy of the people around you. And the source material for this deep dive is a YouTube transcript from a creator named Osman. He goes by the moniker, the blind Muslim yogi.
Right, and we should mention some context about him before we dive into the heavy stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So Osman is a master-level bioenergy healer. He specializes in some really intense areas, like telepathic healing using principles of quantum entanglement.
And he works a lot with critical care and terminal illnesses, right?
He does. He's been practicing healing and advanced yoga for like 50 years. He actually attained his first samadhi experience by the time he was 19.
Which, if you've ever read Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi, you know samadhi is like an incredibly profound, advanced state of consciousness. Getting there at 19 is wild.
Seriously wild.
Yeah.
And Osman mentions in his videos that he's permanently blind, but only since May 2023.
Right, which explains why he often uses very vivid visual descriptions in his content. He had normal eyesight for most of his life before that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, he directs people to his website, which is yogawellness786.com, where you can actually get a free 5-minute yoga and meditation program.
And he has a Patreon for one-on-one sessions and group talks, but he's very clear that his YouTube channel has all the core information for free.
He is. But before we get into the actual mechanics of this mind control concept, and it is intense, we have to hit the disclaimer.
Yes, absolutely. Osman puts this medical disclaimer right at the forefront of his material. He emphasizes that his holistic, energetic methods are absolutely not a replacement for traditional medical treatment.
Right, it's complementary.
Exactly. He advises viewers that if you are dealing with a medical condition, you must consult a licensed medical professional. His work is meant to enhance, not replace, clinical medicine.
Okay, disclaimer done. Let's unpack this. Because the central question of his video is, can yoga and meditation help you manipulate people?
And his answer is just an unfiltered, resounding yes.
No sugarcoating it.
None at all. He doesn't hide behind, like, spiritual ambiguity. He outlines this clear progression from subtle influence all the way up to total, forceful control.
It's so jarring because, like we said, the standard Western view of yoga is entirely internal.
Right. It's about self-containment. You focus on your breath. You ground your nervous system. You're trying to reduce the noise from the outside world.
But Osman totally inverts that. He's saying, sure, you get quiet on the mat, but that stillness is just the prep work.
It's the launch pad.
Exactly. It's the preparation phase for projecting your will outward and making someone else yield to it.
And the specific phrasing he uses is honestly kind of terrifying. He claims you can put such a strong influence into someone's mind that, quote, the only relief for that person is to do your bidding.
Wait, the only relief?
Yeah, the only relief.
That sounds like a psychological checkmate.
That's a really good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Because, in a chess match, you don't physically pick up your opponent's king and throw it off the board. You just arrange your pieces to create this suffocating pressure.
You cut off every escape route.
Right. You build this mental pressure cooker until making the exact move you want them to make is their only option. It's the only release valve for that tension.
And think about if you've ever felt that in real life. Have you ever been in a conversation, maybe a negotiation, and you suddenly feel this inexplicable, heavy pressure to just agree with the other person?
Oh yeah, like even when I know I'm right, I just want to cave to make the weird tension go away.
Exactly. Usually we just think, oh, they're super charismatic, or I'm just feeling insecure today.
But Osman's suggesting that pressure could actually be an intentional, engineered frequency.
Yes. Broadcasted by someone who has mastered the energetic capacity to just dominate the psychology of the room.
Okay, but if we accept that this level of manipulation is actually possible, We're staring down a massive ethical void.
A huge one.
I mean, if I'm altering your internal reality without your consent, I'm completely violating your free will. Doesn't that bother him?
Well, he anticipates that exact critique. He asks it himself, does this mean we take away the free will of the other person?
And what does he say?
He says yes. You are absolutely taking away their free will.
Wow. He just owns it.
He does, but he justifies it with this deep philosophical loophole. He argues that the ethical dilemma doesn't really matter because we don't actually have free will anyway.
Because we live in a conditioned society.
Precisely.
Yeah.
He says we operate in a completely conditioned society, and his definition of that goes way deeper than just, like, seeing too many targeted ads on social media.
Yeah, he gets really biological with it. He points to the food we eat, claiming that mass-produced food is actively manipulating our chemical balances and our psychology.
Which, if we connect this to the bigger picture, is a very real biological mechanism. You hear this a lot on, like, the Huberman Lab podcast, right? The gut-brain axis.
Oh, yeah, Andrew Huberman talks about that all the time.
Right. Our microbiome literally synthesizes neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. So if massive corporations are feeding us highly processed, chemically altered foods...
Then our baseline neurochemistry is being managed by someone else.
Exactly. When you have a sugar crash and get irritable, those thoughts aren't entirely yours. They are the result of commercial inputs.
So Osman is basically saying our agency is already compromised at a molecular level.
Yeah, and he scales that up to societal structures, too. The economy, education, social hierarchies. He says these weren't built for our benefit.
They were built by specific entities or organizations
Yeah.
entirely for their own benefit, to keep us predictable.
Right. He's tapping into this idea that the systems we navigate are just farming our time and energy. So the idea of a sovereign, independent person making totally free choices...
This is a comforting illusion.
Exactly.
Okay, I get his diagnosis of the problem, but I am super skeptical of the cure he's offering.
How so?
Well, just because society manipulates us, does that give me the moral clearance to manipulate my neighbor?
That is the core question.
It feels like realizing you're playing in a rigged casino. You find out the house is cheating everyone. But instead of leaving or exposing the casino, Osman's advice is to just quietly learn how to count cards and cheat the other players at your table.
So you can get your independence back by exploiting the people next to you.
Right. It's like fighting fire with fire, but you're just burning down the person sitting next to you.
That casino analogy perfectly highlights how hyper-individualistic his philosophy is. He's not saying we should dismantle the corrupt system.
No, he wants you to become the apex predator inside the system.
Exactly. And he uses this mathematical phrase to justify it. He constantly says, you are 1 in 8 billion.
Which is funny because usually people say you're 1 in 8 billion to make you feel humble. Like, remember how small you are, be kind to people.
Right. It's usually about empathy. But Osman flips it. He says, because you are just this tiny fraction, true independence means you have to be able to override the rights of others when they clash with yours.
Wait, he actually redefines what a right is, doesn't he?
He does. In classical philosophy, a right is an inherent entitlement. The right to life, liberty, you know.
Something you have no matter what.
But Osman strips that away. For him, a right is just an operational capacity. It's your ability to enact your will.
So if you and I have conflicting desires, there's no moral high ground. It's just a contest of who has the stronger energetic capacity.
It's spiritual Darwinism. Survival of the energetically fittest.
That is so intense.
Yeah.
Okay, so if someone decides to cross that ethical line and they want to embrace this 1 in 8 billion dominance, how does he say you actually do it?
Mechanically, it requires shifting from passive meditation to very intense active projection. First, you have to fine-tune your mind so sharply that you can practically read the thoughts of others.
Like telepathy.
He calls it a highly advanced intuition, mapping their psychological landscape. You have to be able to read the system before you can hack it.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting to me. Reading a mind is one thing, but he says you can actively write the script.
Yes, the performed drama.
The preformed drama. He claims you can build a whole scenario in your head and then implant it into someone else's imagination.
And the word drama is key here. It's not just sending a simple command like, call me.
Right, it's an entire narrative arc.
Exactly. It has sequence, emotional resonance, sensory detail. You construct this fully realized scene in your own consciousness.
And you have to hold it perfectly stable, right? Like 0 distractions.
Perfect stability. You can't let your own stray thoughts corrupt it. Then you project that entire structure into the target's consciousness.
It totally reminds me of the movie Inception. Or, honestly, like a Trojan horse virus in a computer.
Oh, the Trojan horse analogy is perfect. How do you see that connecting?
Well, in cybersecurity, you can't just force a virus into a system. The firewall will catch it and block it.
Right, the system's defenses activate.
And in humans, the ego is the firewall. If I just command you to do something against your will, your ego rejects it. But a Trojan horse disguises the virus as a familiar, safe file.
So the system willingly downloads it.
Exactly. Osman's performed drama is the Trojan horse. You package the narrative so perfectly that the target's brain decodes it and thinks, oh, this is my own organic thought.
They think they improvised the script that you secretly handed to them. It's brilliant and deeply unsettling.
But imagine the cognitive load that takes. I mean, think about trying to meditate normally. You try to watch your breath, and within 5 seconds, you're thinking about what to have for dinner.
Right, the mind just fractures instantly.
But Osman is talking about rendering a real-time CGI movie in your head while suppressing all your own mental noise and beaming it into someone else's brain.
That is exactly why he emphasizes the rigor of this practice. Remember, he practiced for up to 18 hours a day at certain points in his life.
18 hours a day.
Yes. And currently, he maintains 8 to 10 hours a day just to, quote, sharpen the sword.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense. You don't just stumble into this level of focus after a weekend yoga retreat.
No, it's systematic mental conditioning over decades. The level of discipline is astronomical.
But, okay, while planting a drama is super aggressive, he also talks about a passive way to manipulate people, right?
He does. And honestly, the passive mechanism is almost more staggering because of the sheer scale of it.
Yeah, let's get into that.
He claims that when you achieve a highly organized, balanced state through deep meditation, that energy doesn't just stay inside your body.
It radiates outward.
Exactly. It radiates out and automatically influences the imbalance of the people you're connected to.
And when he says connected to, he doesn't mean standing next to them in line at the grocery store.
No. The geography of this is boundless. He states this works anywhere on the planet or even anywhere in the universe.
Which is just like quantum entanglement on a macroscopic scale.
It is. It's a non-local model of consciousness. Distance literally does not matter.
You hear concepts like this brought up on podcasts, like
Yeah.
Buddha at the Gas Pump with Rick Archer. They talk about non-dual awareness and interconnectedness.
Oh, definitely.
But Osman takes that spiritual concept and applies a very mechanical operational trigger to it.
He does. Because obviously we aren't constantly feeling the chaotic energy of all 8 billion people at once.
Thank goodness.
Right. There has to be a mechanism that opens the channel between two specific people.
And he says the trigger is just mutual thought.
Mutual thought, yes. They think of you and you think of them.
That's it. That's it, the password.
That's all it takes to establish a secure connection between the two nodes in the network.
And once that connection is open, the physics of resonance take over.
Exactly. The practitioner has this incredibly dense, structured energy from practicing 8 hours a day. The target is just dealing with normal life chaos.
So the practitioner's frequency is just fundamentally stronger.
Right. And in physics, a stronger, organized frequency will naturally force a weaker, dissonant frequency to align with it.
It's like being a human tuning fork.
That's a great analogy.
If you walk into a room full of out-of-tune instruments and you strike one massive, perfectly calibrated tuning fork, the sheer power of that sound wave physically forces the other instruments to start vibrating in harmony.
You don't even have to touch them.
Right. You don't have to say a word. You just exist at a higher frequency, and you force their mental state to align with yours.
And Osman calls this positive manipulation.
Positive manipulation. That is such an oxymoron.
It really is. He argues that because you are bringing balance, you are forcing the other person to start thinking rationally and improving their life.
And they assume those rational thoughts are their own.
Exactly. They just suddenly feel calmer and make better decisions.
I mean, on one hand, it sounds amazing. Imagine dealing with a friend who is totally spiraling in a crisis.
It's usually impossible to talk them down.
Yeah, their ego is up. They get defensive if you give them advice. But with this, you bypass the ego completely. You just focus your own harmony, think of them, and beam them some balance.
It sounds incredibly benevolent, like being an invisible healer.
But this raises a really important question. If they didn't ask for your rational balance, is it still an intrusion?
The ethical friction doesn't just disappear because the outcome is nice. Manipulation is still manipulation.
Like sneaking vegetables into a kid's dessert.
Exactly. The kid gets the nutrients, but you bypass their consent.
And beyond just consent, you might actually be robbing them of a learning experience.
That's a profound point. Personal growth usually requires us to navigate our own chaos.
Right. You have to hit rock bottom sometimes to figure things out. If someone is artificially propping up your mood from across the globe,
You might never develop your own internal resilience.
it's basically spiritual paternalism. You're deciding that your state of mind is objectively better than theirs, and you're enforcing an upgrade.
You are exercising your capacity to override them, just like Osman talked about earlier.
And I guess that's why he issues that massive warning.
Yes, he is very clear that as a practitioner's conscious capacity gains strength, the potential for abuse is huge.
The slope from passive healing to active, ego-driven dominance is incredibly slippery.
And if you think hacking another human's mind is extreme, Osman takes things to an entirely different dimension in the final stages of his transcript.
The deep end. We completely leave the human domain.
We do. He introduces a tier of practice where you begin interacting with non-physical consciousness.
Higher frequency entities.
Yes. He claims that advanced practitioners can tap into communication with discrete, conscious beings that exist beyond our standard perception.
Which, okay, lots of spiritual traditions talk about angels or spirit guides. But Osman's approach to these entities is shocking.
It's extremely transactional.
Right. He uses business language.
Yeah.
He literally says you can enter into contracts with these entities.
He's outlining a system of cosmic negotiation.
Yeah. He explicitly states that these powerful entities can be manipulated to work for you.
To shape the physical world to your desires.
And the specific desires he mentions aren't about world peace. He says they can bring about massive popularity and massive wealth.
So the ultimate goal of decades of intense meditation can actually be material and social supremacy.
It's like going from a holistic wellness retreat to hiring supernatural lobbyists to rig the stock market.
It's a complete paradigm shift. But it makes sense within his framework. If energy is just a tool for influence, why stop at humans?
But if you are signing a contract with a higher frequency entity to get rich and famous, who is actually manipulating who?
That is the ultimate question. It echoes the classic Faustian bargain.
Right. You're trading with forces way beyond your comprehension. What are you paying in return?
Are you signing away your own energetic sovereignty for temporary victories in a rigged casino?
Exactly. It's wild to think that this is the contemporary application of these ancient sciences being discussed over at yogawellness786.com.
It fundamentally changes how you look at the whole meditation space.
It really does. Let's just recap this incredible journey we've been on.
We started by completely dismantling the peaceful, passive view of yoga.
Right, looking at Osman's claim that deep mental discipline can actually be weaponized for forceful psychological control.
We analyzed his defense for this, the idea that our lack of true free will in a conditioned society gives the practitioner the right to override others.
Then we looked at the mechanics, the active, highly focused, preformed drama that you implant past someone's ego like a mental Trojan horse.
As well as the passive, universal web of energetic resonance, where your balanced frequency can organize the chaos of anyone you think about.
And finally, that huge escalation into making literal contracts with higher frequency entities for wealth and popularity.
Osman presents a reality where the human mind is a reality-generating engine, constantly transmitting intention.
Even if you never try to contact an entity or plant a drama, that passive network is always running.
Your baseline frequency is always interacting with the people connected to you.
Which brings up a really provocative thought to carry with you today.
What's that?
If just thinking about someone opens a channel between your consciousness and theirs, then your internal state is never truly private.
Right.
So as you go about your day today, talking to your family, your friends, your coworkers, ask yourself, what kind of invisible script are you accidentally writing for the people you think about the most? Are you projecting a drama of stress and tension onto them? Or are you acting as that calibrated tuning fork, offering them the quiet relief of a balanced mind?
That is a profound lens to view our daily interactions through.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this intensely challenging deep dive. Keep questioning the unseen structures around you, continue exploring the outer limits of the mind, and we will catch you next time.